right, guys. All right, welcome everybody. How you doing? Hope everybody is enjoying their Sunday afternoon. It is summertime, so hopefully you're out. You know, you just came from back outside getting some vitamin D. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Mike McConnell, co-founder of the Mastermind Connect. We are a men's collective helping men connect to their higher selves, community, and their passions. And I'm very excited today. I have somebody that I have a profound respect for. This man is, I feel like I'm talking to a wise sage when I have conversations with him. But his name is Didier Sylvain. He is a leadership and life alignment coach. And he's the truth, man. He's the real deal. I had to get him on. I asked him to do this. I was very excited to introduce this gentleman to you guys because I feel like you can gain some wisdom, right? We could always use a little bit more wisdom. So today's subject is about mastering life choices. And we're going to see, can you master life choices? We're going to answer some questions today. So Brother Didier, how are you, my man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing really well. I appreciate that kind and generous welcome. It's an honor to be here.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Now, so I've never heard of this before. I've heard of a leadership coach, right? And I'm going to let you get into it, but life alignment coach. That kind of resonated with me, though I've never heard it before. Can you explain a little bit about what it is you do, leadership and life alignment coach?
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you. And I have to say, like, the invitation to hop on here with you and the Mastermind Connect community is an honor. It's
Thank you, man.
It's a privilege, and I do appreciate and very much respect what y'all are doing, and any opportunity there is to connect and build and share inspiration, resources, guidance. Like, that's, I'm here for it. So
That's how we do it, man. That's how we do it. We're family now, bro. It's too late.
Yeah. Appreciate it. I'm here for it.
Let's go.
Yeah. So as you said, right. So the coaching world is pretty saturated, right? And so by that I mean there are lots of different types of coaches that offer their gifts to the world. Thankfully so. The first thing that I do when I talk about the type of coaching I do is to first make a distinction from another type of modality of guidance and support, which is therapy, right? And so some folks, right, they sometimes aren't entirely clear because the lines may blur sometimes. Most simply, I say that therapy is about caring for the past, our history, which is living and embodied, right? Coaching is more about caring for our future, which is emerging and embodied. And so I spend my time supporting people to get clear on who they are, what they're about, where they want to go, right? How to close the gap. Sometimes that's about an art and a practice of how we mobilize change in the world.
Yeah.
Which is how I describe leadership, right?
Okay.
Sometimes it's about an art and a practice of how we mobilize ourselves, which is what I describe as life alignment, when we have an integration of who we are with how we're living. When we're integrating our passions, our gifts, our resources, our opportunities with the needs of the world, that are calling us. When those things are integrated, that's a life that's aligned. So that's what I strive to support people in.
So you just don't, and I want to get this clear. So it's not just like business coaching or just personal. It's the 360 approach. You kind of dive into people, show people how to align their personal lives, their business lives, and if they want to start a business, maybe an entrepreneurship, but also like in their careers, like their jobs, like how to find that balance. Is that what you mean when you mean alignment? You create a plan for them to bring it all together and create that balance, correct?
Yeah, man. So there'll be some people who come to work with me and they have a concern in their personal life, or their work life or their family life or their community life,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'll meet them where they are, right, and offer the support that I can. But the challenge can be, we can spend all of our attention, all the resource and energy, and I could give you all the tools on how to get super clear on what's next for your career or your vocation or your work. But all your relationships might still be broken
Mm-hmm.
or fractured, right? And so the intention isn't to get super clear and resourced in one area of our life, but leave the rest of us behind,
Right,
right? There's
right.
a kind of a holistic approach here,
Yeah.
because we know that all of our different areas of our life influence each other, right? So that's
And that's the thing. A lot of people, they will excel at one part of their lives and leave the rest behind. And I guess we're getting into some of the challenges that you deal with. What are some of the challenges? That's one of them. Leaving maybe your personal life behind, like your love life is a mess, your relationship is a mess, but you making that money. You know what I mean? So what are some of the challenges that you do see with coaching? And then trying to stay balanced yourself. Obviously
Mm.
you have your own life. So
Yeah.
having all these clients, like how do you challenges? Let's talk about the challenges you face with coaching,
Mm-hmm.
and how do you personally balance it?
Yeah, great, man. Thank you for that. Um, because this is more than just talk, right?
Good.
Nothing is of consequence unless we're actually practicing what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate the question. Um, yeah. So the common challenges, multifold. What I would elevate here is, I'll elevate three things. Three most common challenges or problems that often people come to me with,
Yeah.
seeking some support or guidance. One is, people who are they know that they're not where they need to be with their life. They
Mhm.
know that there's something they're not aligned, so to speak. They're not living the life that they like,
Mhm.
and they're just feeling stuck, right? Feeling
Yeah.
stuck, and by feeling stuck, meaning like feeling under resourced,
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
how to mobilize oneself to move through a period of radical transition, whether it's just coming out of a relationship,
Yeah.
the relationship be it personal or professional,
Mhm.
or maybe entering something new, right? And just feeling stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's a very common human experience, right? So people come to say, I feel stuck and I need clarity.
Right.
A second is, so I work with a lot of what we can call go-getters,
Mhm.
right? So folks who have a lot of ambition, a lot of drive. Maybe they're entrepreneurs, or maybe they lead their families, and there's just a lot of ambition
Yeah.
to make an impact in the world.
Right.
These folks, and often they have an entrepreneurial energy, but not always, right? These folks, I find, often bring a challenge of what we can call, what I call self-reliance, right? Where there really is a trained tendency to do this thing called not ask for help and actually carry the world on our shoulders, right? Carry the world on our shoulders,
Right.
thinking that if I don't do all this alone, I'm weak, and if I'm weak, um, then I'm not a worthy, lovable, legitimate human,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
The third, I'd say, is folks who have a tendency of um, really getting in their own way with a kind of self-critical muscle, and so these are folks who show up for others so beautifully. They show they have their hearts are as large as the sun,
Mhm.
and they show up anytime someone asks them for something, and they just want to serve, right, wherever they're called to serve. And the one person they're not serving is themselves.
Right.
And
Right.
so in that process, they often kind of beat themselves up, criticize themselves for not being living up to a certain standard they have of who they're supposed to be. And so a lot of that work is often about um, creating some space to actually have some compassion for who we are, to acknowledge that we can't care for ourselves if we can't care for others, and then building our muscles to make a greater impact. Throughout all of that, just to take up your second question, I am a human being who lives, breathes, sees, witnesses all that I speak to my clients with, and
Right.
so if I tell you it might be helpful to name some boundaries around your work, right?
Yeah.
I'm practicing the same thing, and that's all it is, right? It's a practice. And so for me, some of the boundaries, that I often work on, are around caring for my spiritual health, my psychological health, my physical health, and I'm not working after 6:30 p.m. That's actually late to me. That's a
Wow.
late day,
Good for you.
and I am and I'm doing my best to honor weekends. To me, this
Yeah.
is the service, so this is different, right?
Yeah.
But boundaries being a big thing that works for me, and that I strive to. I struggle with it like everybody, but it's I
Yeah.
remind myself that it's a practice. And so I think at the end of the day, what works well is having some compassion
Absolutely.
for myself, for others to do that as we do our best to honor ourselves and our needs.
Now, we can tend to light ourselves on fire. The go-getters, right? We tend to light ourselves on fire and burn the candle at both ends, whatever metaphor or analogies you want to say. We all share sort of that common thing of really working to not find the balance, but create the balance. And we don't always succeed. One thing that I've found with go-getters is they base their happiness off of their wins and losses a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something that I try to be very conscious of. Just because a business deal didn't work out, this does not determine my value, my overall value as a person. So I completely hear you with what you said is just really making sure that they are aware of all aspects of their lives and not just focusing in on one, and so things don't collapse around them. Now, with your with this subject that we have, and thank you so much. That was very insightful, even for you personally. With just being aware enough to not work after 6:30 and have your weekends. God bless you. We need to talk offline. Is mastering life choices? Is this possible? I used to have kind of a beef with people who call themselves masters or mastering something because I felt like the universe is infinite, knowledge is infinite, life is tricky. My boy Manny posted something. He said, "You show me your plans, and God laughs at your plans." Right. So, is mastering certain aspects of your life possible?
Yeah,
and that's the question.
Yeah. No, thank you for the question. I appreciate any skepticism with engaging the word mastery. Right. It could be a kind of daunting word. Right. What does that? I mean, mastery. Like what? Talk about Yoda. Like what? Like who's allowed access to? So what I find to be helpful is to make it a little bit less charged. When we consider that mastery is actually that which becomes easier and more pleasurable the more we practice. That mastery is actually just about a state of practice. Right? I'm thinking about the Iverson meme and video for those that have seen it. You're talking about practice. We're talking about practice. Right?
Practice.
so right. So the more that we practice something, the easier something is. Right. But that doesn't mean that we stop mastering something or that we reach a destination, right? So the first thing I do when I work with my clients and I work with communities is we're just interested in getting clear on the practices that we have and how to become more choiceful, right? To be more choiceful.
Choiceful. I like
the practices that we're doing, right? More choiceful and more willful, right? So when we talk about mastering life choices, or when I talk about mastering life's choices, I'm really talking about being in a state of continually considering, right? What am I consciously choosing? What am I consciously practicing? Right? To actually be conscious, right? Because most of us live our lives, at least the people I've interacted with and the life that I've lived, right? Most of us live kind of reacting to what life throws our way, right? I know that I need to get a job, and the first someone shows up and says, I got a gig for you, I think that'll be good, and I just hop on it because it's just the first thing that comes my way. Or a relationship, right? Someone comes up and expresses interest in entering an intimate, like, it's just, I'm just gonna jump into it because it's what shows up, and we're kind of like leaves blowing in the wind, kind of like accidental tourists in our own lives, rather than being in a state of conscious, active choice making. And so when I talk about mastering life choices, I'm talking about having a conscious practice where we continually return to a state of considering, what are my choices in this moment? Right? Considering the choices, having a process which we can talk about, right? And how to make those choices rather than living life from a reactive state.
Right. Yeah. There's, feels like you're always chasing, right? Like you're on this track in this loop and you're always just chasing. And I know that feeling, I've been there myself, with my kids and my relationship, my businesses, and just constantly feeling like every day I was waking up running in laps and unnecessarily, like I didn't have to do that. Now, if I, when it started to turn a little bit for me was when I became a little bit more intentional. You said choiceful. I really like that word, choiceful and willful. And I'm going to add that to my repertoire. But, it's really important that you have that coach in your life, that person in your life, that is helping you see the entire view of everything of your life. Not just your problems or where you want to be. But it's like, hey, let's take a step back. Let's look at this for real. What can change? What can be removed? And that's what I'm feeling and I'm sensing that you do. You slow people down so they can relearn about themselves. And with that said, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but what's your approach to coaching? What is your approach to coach? Because there's some coaches who are just like super like, yeah, you can do it. It's just like motivation, and you're like, I'm not in the mood for that shit right now. Like
sometimes we need that. Yeah.
Right. But what is your approach?
Yeah, thank you for that. So there are a few ways I talk about my approach to coaching. Well, at a high level, I'll say it's part strategic, part spiritual, part psychological, and it's all human. So my approach usually looks like this. There are usually three main questions that show up when anyone is expressed interest in coaching with me. Usually three main questions that I hear, and I reflect that back to them, and they say, yeah, right. So, and then we talk about what are the consequences of those questions for you. The first question is, what aspects of your history do you want to carry forward? Now, we ask that question because we know that there's some good stuff that we always embody, right? Our strengths, our gifts, our passions, the things that we stand for. What's important to you?
Principles. Yeah.
Principles. We want to carry those things forward. And the clearer we are on those things, the more we have a beacon that can serve our conscious choice making. At the same time,
sorry about that.
It's all good. At the same time,
calls to listen to you.
It's all good. At the same time, we know that there are aspects of our history we might want to leave behind.
Yeah.
Right. Like old tendencies, patterns,
residue,
right? Sometimes we have this thing called trauma also, right? From the experiences of pain, upbringing, culture. Like just take a look at what's going on in our world right now, right? It doesn't take much for us to consider that trauma and pain, right, lives inside us, right? And so there are aspects of that we need to care for always and bring support to. And some of that stuff we inflict on ourselves. Some of that stuff we got to leave behind, right?
Right.
So a large part of my work is about helping locate what we want to carry forward, but also what we got to leave behind in terms of our beliefs and our behaviors. The second main question is, how do I mobilize myself and advance through competing commitments that live inside me? Right? Because many of us
break that down, brother.
Yeah. Competing commitments, right? So many of us care about lots of things we're conscious of, but we also care about some things that we're not so conscious of, right? And when we live out, right, two things that we care about that might actually be in tension with each other, we get into trouble. I'll give you an example. So, when I work with clients, I'll often ask them, what sorts of things, and we can all ask, whoever's watching now, you can ask yourself this question, right? And I ask myself this question, and Mike, we can ask ourselves this question together, right? What sorts of things, if they happen more often or if they happen less often, would make you more impactful or more fulfilled? What sorts of things, if they happen more often or less often, right? And then they think, and they might start rattling some stuff off, right? They may say, I'd be curious what you might say, Mike. But I mean, people will say, if I had, common thing people say, if I had more time in my calendar or in my days, I'd be more impactful. If I were less self-doubting, I'd be more impactful and fulfilled. Or if I surrounded myself with more supportive people and I had the right team, if I had more money, more resources, right, I'd be more impactful, right? So people list all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then we say, all right, out of those things, what's the most important one? Take a look at that list you just made. And what's the most important one? Right? And just circle that, right? So for you, Mike, I'll just ask you, like, is there something that would come up for you if you would think about what sorts of things, if they happen more often or less often, would make you more fulfilled or more impactful?
It's a great question. And I feel like I just gave myself that thing, and it was time. Because, having my kids and, my just always being there, I feel like I wasn't really able to fully commit to my projects and my businesses. So I have very young kids, 18 months and 5 years old. I have my 17-year-old, but they require a lot of TLC. And, I recently, made a life decision that I finally put myself first in regards to my time, because I need to produce things so I can take care of them, right? So if I don't have the time to do what I need to do, then I'm no use good to anybody. If I'm not taking care of my spiritual health, like you said, if I'm not, taking time to study and answer emails and my work commitments, then, not going to have those resources. So for me, it was time. And I literally recently just gave myself the time without any guilt attached to it. And I feel great.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
That's a lot more than many of us are conscious of and are willing to do, right?
Yeah.
So let me just ask you one question, and then we could build this out, right? Because so I think it's a really resonant example for many of us. Certainly, it's an example I have often, right? What's important to you, about having that time, and when you're starting to explain that, I hear you say being a good dad, right?
Yeah.
Like being the dad that you want to be, being the leader you want to be for your family and for the world, right? Anything else? What else is important to you about?
It's just it really is for me. I need to concentrate when I'm working. I have to concentrate, and I'm a creative, so I have to have that time where I'm just like pacing for 2 hours, thinking about this project, without interruption. So allowing myself grace, giving myself grace within that time to say, it may not look like I'm using this time wisely to you, but I am using this time wisely. Like I'm going to go out and go for a walk. And then when I come back, I'm doing a lecture tomorrow, for instance. I've had to leave the computer at least 5 times, because I need to get inspiration. So I gave myself the grace within that time to walk away and then to come back.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's
beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah. So for many folks, right, this is the moment when we can start to consider, as human beings, we tend to get in our own way, especially as we start to notice some of the things that work, right? Like stepping away from the computer. We tend to do some things that might get in the way of that on a day-to-day basis, right? Or whatever it is for us, right? So for me, I say if I had more time, I'd be more impactful, more aligned, more fulfilled. Because what's important to me is actually similar to you, right? I'm a creative person, right? It's offering my creative gifts to the world, right? And I do a number of things, right, that get in the way of what I care about. So I care about, right? I have a commitment to offering my creative gifts to the world, right? You have a commitment to, you know, concentration and focus and making impact and being the best dad you can be, right? And we do things that get in our own way, right? Of things. So for me, right, the things I do, I put myself last in a list of priorities, right? I tend to say yes too often to
Yeah.
the projects that come my way. I tend to, you know, this is so common amongst a lot of the folks I work with. You know, sometimes, or being conflict averse, right? Avoiding conflict,
Right.
um, being easily distracted, picking up my phone too much. Those are all things that I do, that folks do, right?
Yeah.
That can get in the way of what's important to us.
Right. Right.
And in order to actually break from that, we got to get clear. Well, what's going on there? And
Right.
one way we can understand what's going on there's another commitment, right? There's something feeding those behaviors.
Yeah.
My tendency to put myself last, there's something feeding that behavior, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for each of us, it's useful to just ask, right? One, what are the behaviors we do that get in the way of what we care about?
So it's identifying.
Identifying it, right? And then what's important to you about those behaviors? Because something is important to you and it's probably less than conscious. And it probably has something to do with this thing called the ego, you know? So for me, right, and for many folks I work with, this often comes up: saying yes too often, taking on too many projects, putting ourselves last, right?
Mhm.
There might be a commitment less than consciously to being liked or being loved. Right?
Social media plays a huge part into that.
Social media play,
Like
social
when
media.
you're down and you're like, I need to pick me up.
I need to pick me up, right?
Yeah.
And that's in direct tension. Exactly. That's in direct tension and competition with the first thing we said that's important to us, you know, and so it's useful. Yeah.
So I got excited, man. You were telling me about this program. I need the brothers to listen right now, man. You telling me about this program.
Yeah.
And I think it's called Coherence. Is it called Coherence? So
Coherent.
this is, you have a program that is literally coming out in the next few days. It's a group coaching program geared towards Black men.
Mhm.
I would love to learn a little bit more about it.
Yeah, cool, man. Thank you for asking. So I do a lot of individual coaching with folks. I discovered over the past couple of years that when you combine that with doing coaching in a group setting,
Yeah,
the possibilities of transformation is just exponential.
endless.
Endless, right? I mean, Mastermind Connect knows this, right? That's what you're doing something in a community, through a community vehicle and forum, because you all know, right, that when one person is witnessed, truly witnessed,
Mm.
right, that creates complete transformation and power, not only the person being witnessed, but in the entire collective, right? We know witnessing is a sacred act, right?
Mm.
And so you all do that through Mastermind Connect. I've realized it's important to do that with coaching. So designed this program that I realized was working within companies and organizations that I was working in, cohort-based leadership development programs for people who were feeling stuck, wanting to take their leadership to the next level, wanting to take their life to the next level, and needing some support. I realized it's possible to do that. I realized it's time to do that with Black and Brown brothers. Like, I just need to focus on bringing these types of tools and support to Black and Brown men. That's what I've been feeling called to. We need to elevate our leadership in the world right now.
Somebody's thinking about us. I love it.
Yeah, we're thinking about us, right? We're thinking of,
for once. Yeah.
And so, so geared towards us, for us, by us, if I could say that, to come together through a 3-month program to do a few different things, 4 things really. One, to get clear on our assignment. I use the language of assignment in this work. People talk about purpose, right? What's my purpose? Like, purpose sometimes can be a bit of a daunting word, right? It's like a little charge, a little abstract. But we know that there's some work being called to us in our family, in our jobs, in our careers, in our communities. What's the assignment in front of you? We want to get clear on that.
Yeah.
Right? What are our gifts, our talents, our superpowers? We want to get clear on that and make sure that they're in service of the right things, right? Our assignment. We got to get clear on how we get in our own way. right? Our competing commitments and other old beliefs and behaviors that no longer serve us, right? And we got to come up with a plan that actually is filled with practices, to serve what we care most about. We come together over 3 months. It's a mix of individual coaching, group coaching, kind of a combination of kickoff kind of retreats where we come together. We tackle specific challenges that we're facing on our journey, and it's all in service of clarifying who we are, what we're about, and how to get there, and to support our conscious choice making. That's really what it's ultimately about, and to do so in community, because none of us can go the journey alone.
Yeah, no, it's actually more difficult alone, but our pride and our ego, our ego and our pride get in the way. And this program, first of all, it sounds amazing. This program, when does this group program start?
So, starting to have some preliminary, like, just discovery conversations with folks one-on-one, just to get clear, like, what's the work for you, right? Like, what are your goals? What are your ambitions? What do you want to get to? And what's your vision, right? And what's getting in the way? In the first week of August, we're going to start much more of those conversations officially.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout the month of August, doing some deep dive individual work. We come together as a cohort at the end of August, and then start the group coaching after them.
So you get the best of both worlds, man. Like you get individual coaching, and then you get group coaching in a setting where with like-minded individuals who are probably going through the same thing as you.
Yeah, I mean that's you said it, right? And so
that's dope.
When we see someone else going through something that we're going through, right? So I witnessed Mike's discovery, Mike's aha. All of a sudden, it activates the aha for me, which I didn't even realize I needed.
Right. Now, can you talk about, a lot of brothers, man, I'm in the self-development field. I'm in the men's wellness field with Mastermind Connect. And, sometimes it is a bit of a struggle to get Black men to understand the importance of investing in their self-development. Not just the physical, going to the gym or I'm eating right, but their leadership skills, how they show up as a man. Have you found it, sort of a challenge to get more men of color to care about self-development and leadership and these things that you teach?
That's such an important question. The honest answer is I've found it less of a challenge, but more of just like an information gap. One, and then two, when there is a challenge, when I say information gap, I mean there's an idea, right, that support isn't out there for us, right?
Yeah.
That the world isn't taking care of us. I've learned that I got to go it alone. No one's going to take care of me.
Right.
The best way to get through is to just
I'm solo dolo, son.
Solo dolo, right? So that from one extent, that's an information gap, okay? On the other hand, challenge, most definitely, right? So many of us, also know for me personally, right, we're socialized to focus on what we're doing in the world, right? The action that we need to take and all the other aspects that make us who we are, right? The narratives we tell ourselves, our emotional bodies, right? Our emotional life, the way we're actually in relationship, right? All these things, right? I didn't get socialized to learn about these things. If anything, right.
Right. Was, but when you have that awakening, or you have somebody like you who comes in, provides this space to, designs programs the way that you do, it's a little easier, for that individual who may have lived a very rigid island sort of just me. I'm an island. It's a little easier when you have brothers like you who are even conscious of their tone, because I'm listening to your tone. You have a calming effect, that's very important. And like you said, there's guys that are just like, yeah, you can do it. They got the more like aggressive way of doing things, but you're providing something that most of us as Black men, I'll be honest with you, we don't get. We don't get people who care because we're just naturally supposed to have it. You're naturally supposed to have money. You're naturally supposed to be, a great husband or a great boyfriend. You're naturally supposed to do all these things.
Mm.
And I don't think society takes into consideration all of the things that Black men have to deal with that are it's just daunting and tiresome.
Yeah, and I mean the things that we have to deal with that we know if we deal with effectively, we can actually show up more effectively for those we care about most, right?
Absolutely.
Our families, right? Our
Yeah.
sisters, our spouses, right, our children, like our parents, right? Our people, right? So yes, it's about us, but it's about us so that we can show up more fully, authentically, effectively, right, for our people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I mean I appreciate all that you're saying with that, because there really is a like the old legacies and like socialization and conditioning that says you really have to numb your experience, your emotions, especially your anger, right? As Black men, right? One of the most, at least in my experience, right? One of the emotions that we are most socialized to avoid, right, is our anger, right?
Yes.
And so part of this work is also about creating space to just name and normalize. We're a human being. You're a human being,
Yeah.
right? you
Yeah.
know,
You know,
and
the
you have and like
scale.
all we gotta love it all, right? We gotta love it all because
Yep.
that emotional fire, that fuel, right, channels and can feed our capacity to actually make impact, the impact we care about. So rather than resisting it all, we create space for it to breathe, and then we equip it with tools, so that we can make greater impact. That's what this is about. And so working through these challenges is possible, but what's helpful is having the spaces and platforms to do so, and spread the word, which I appreciate,
Right.
you do with Mastermind Connect, and through all of your work, making resources and you know available for the
I
people.
mean, it's my duty to support you. This is not something I have to think about.
Mm,
I see a brother doing this type of work where I'm just going to look at you. Then this is the things that I don't understand. But the more conversations and group programs like this that exist, the more mindful as men of color, Black men, we become. Right.
mm,
So now that I have that balance in my life, and like I understand reciprocity, so
mm,
I have the space and the time, right? Because it's been freed up because I've been able to identify,
mhm,
I've been able to create a plan of how I'm going to approach it. Now I'm able to show up for the next brother and help them out and them help me out, and be able to receive, because receiving is a lot of us Black men, we don't know how to receive. Like,
yeah,
we do not.
yeah,
And I did a post about this on my Facebook page about
mm,
specific types of brothers who were raised in the hood
mhm,
and didn't really get that chance to feel, be, and know love.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
And I
mm,
feel such a sense of compassion in your voice as you talk about this.
mm,
And I don't feel like this is a program, this coherence program that you're launching in a few days. And I'm going to give a contacts of how they can contact you.
mm,
It feels like welcome home, brother.
mm.
Like compassionate, which we need sometimes.
Thank you for
So,
saying that, brother.
so
Thank you so much for saying that.
I would give you a chance to respond to that one, and then two, I want you to dive into a little bit more how they can be a part of the program.
Yeah, yeah, no, thank you for that, brother. Thank you so much. I love the way you said that. Welcome home, brother. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
in a way, right? We're talking about homecoming. That like homecoming as an art and a practice of being a human, right?
Mhm.
And of being a leader and of being a Black man. What does it mean to return home?
Yeah.
It's a beautiful poetry you just offered,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, I mean, returning home, right? And they say the best teachers send you back to yourself,
Mm, mm,
right? They certainly strive to send you back to yourself, right? And
right.
that's certainly what my work is about, right? And what this program is about, generally, right? Send people back to themselves, and to do it before we enter a state of kind of reactive crisis, because sometimes we come, like brothers come to this work, or people come to this work because of crisis, right? Some type of radical change, right? A radical loss, radical trauma, radical pain. Now, well, those things often trigger people to do this type of work, we call those crucibles, right? Like the crucibles where we enter a space. It comes from alchemy, right? Where we enter a space where our pain, right, propels us to purpose.
Mm.
But it's possible that, you know, that we can equip ourselves with these types of resources and support, you know, not only in the midst of crisis, right, but also as a proactive, conscious road of mastery, right, where we're continually doing this work, not just because we're in the fire,
Right. Not
we're
just
in the fire right now. We're definitely in the fire right now.
absolutely, and this is deeper than just one self-help video, or it's deeper than just like taking a vacation. You're pretty much like rewiring, people's neurons, and like making sure that they like think better for themselves. It's just such important work. And I want to one talk about like how they can contact you to learn more about the program.
Great, man. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. So, folks can contact me directly. There's there's information on a website. It's basically my name.com/coherence. So it's didiersylvain.com/coherence. This is more information about the program in general. But people can reach out to me. That's just my first name at my full name.com. Didier@didiersylvain.com. And people can reach out. There is some like a preliminary conversations we can have to just get super clear on what's the work for you, right? And how can this be of service to you? And just a brief form, basically, people fill out in order to help me, right, better design an experience for you. So
Perfect.
So people can reach out to me that way directly.
Custom programs going
Custom,
on.
Yeah. I'm also on all the other
platforms. Not just a size fits all approach. I can tell just by talking to you that you put a lot of thought into this stuff. If we have any questions, I know Manny is behind the boards. So it's like a real production, man. It feels good, doesn't it? Like, we had a really great pre-production call with Manny. This is how we do it.
I appreciate it.
But if there's no questions, what I'll do is, because I kind of wanted to be straight to the point with this one, because I know the program begins when.
So next week, the end of this coming week is when enrollment closes, and so the following week is when we start. So basically, it's the first week of August is when we start.
Okay, so you guys need to hop on this. We're gonna repost this in the group for those that missed it. But this is important work. You guys got to invest in your self-development. It's very key as men of color, Black men, that you invest in your self-development. A small investment in bettering yourself and learning about leadership, and having somebody like Didier that by your side who is going to walk you through a process is almost unheard of. It's not something that you're going to get in school. This is not something that you're going to get just by talking to your boys or even watching 10, 20 YouTube videos. You're getting straightforward guidance from somebody who is passionate about what they do. So DIDIER Sylvain.com/coherence. There's the link right there. I'll give you guys some time to copy that. But I wanted this to be straight to the point. Like you see, I dived right in.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, bro. I really do. I really appreciate it.
You can't play around with this work.
Yeah, I see. There's some good, helpful questions in the comments. So something from Abraham on Facebook. What sort of self work is necessary before looking into coaching? That's such a great question. Definitely, I think it's a vital question, right? Because some of us we think that we want coaching, but we're actually not necessarily ready for it, right? And with that, right, what often the case is, folks know that they want some resources and support. They want new outcomes in their life. They want new possibilities, but they're not necessarily willing to hear something new or try something new. If you're willing to hear something new and you're willing to try something new, at the very least, you're ready for coaching.
Yeah.
Right. So there's the real willingness, right, to enter a space of taking on new practices, right, new experiments, right, a willingness to look in the mirror, right, and
Yeah.
ask questions, a willingness um, to exercise some self-compassion. Like if these are things that you're willing to do, then you're ready for coaching, right? I often say that folks who have access to other forms of guidance and support, whether it's talk therapy or other healing modalities or whatnot, bring in your modalities, right? Bring them in, whatever supports you. Like some brothers go to the gym, like do your practices. We need all of that, right? But so long as you're willing to hear something new, try something new,
It's for
let's
you.
go. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm so sorry I didn't see that question pop up, but thank you. Abraham is a Mastermind Connect member and a gentleman committed to growth. Abraham, definitely, I would love for you to connect with this gentleman. I knowing you, like I know that you would really enjoy this group. Also, there's a gentleman named Buddha who's in here, who's another member. But I'm going to circulate this amongst the membership. I'm gonna share this again on my pages. But I had such an enlightening conversation with you today. I'm very happy about us being able to make this happen.
Me too, man.
I'm just looking right now, see if there's anything else. No, there's nothing else right now. But maybe we can part to this in the future, and make it actually probably add more people, and just keep the conversation going.
Yeah, and I would love that. I would love that.
Maybe one of your students that came from the program.
Yeah. Most definitely. Be happy to. Yeah. No, just an honor to be here and just have this conversation. Grateful to all the folks that showed up. See Buddha, Tremaine, Abraham. Yeah. Appreciate all y'all for showing up. Appreciate this, Mike.
Good guys, man. But thank you again, brother Sylvain. You can catch this man at DidierSylvain.com. If we could bring that up one more time. Yes, and that's the program, right?
Yeah, and I'm also on social, and so you can find me on Facebook, Didier Sylvain Coaching /Didier Sylvain Coaching on Facebook, and then on Instagram it's _Didier Sylvain _.
Okay.
So okay. Yeah, I'll type that in on the IG just in case folks want to connect there.
Perfect, man. Perfect. Yeah. Well, thank you again. This was enlightening. I've been jumping into the self-development field for a while now, and saw strides within myself, but it's only because they disciplined. So I would say that's all you guys out there thinking about joining this program, is that you have to be disciplined when you come to this gentleman. He's the real deal. All right.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate
that. You, Sylvain. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, brother Mike.
We're gonna make it happen, man. We're gonna run this back one more time.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'm here for it.
Before the summer's out, maybe let's run it back.
I'm down for it.
My man.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you too, man. Take care, and thank you, guys out there, for tuning in. We do these lives on our platform from time to time. Always issues that are affecting today's man. My name is Mike McConnell, co-founder of the Mastermind Connect. I want to give a shout out to the entire membership base and founders, Manny Almonte and JD Weatherspoon. So thank you guys, and everybody enjoy the rest of your day. Go outside, get some sun.
Yeah, need that. Thank you, brother. Peace.